Is your child struggling to fall asleep at night, waking frequently, or seeming tired even after a full night in bed? The problem might not be what you think. Research in sleep science shows that certain common bedtime habits that seem harmless or even helpful are actually increasing your child's cortisol levels right when their body needs to be calming down. This stress hormone spike is making it physiologically difficult for their brain and body to transition into restful sleep, and the habits causing it are happening in loving homes every single night. If bedtime feels like a battle in your house, or if your child's sleep quality concerns you, understanding these three specific patterns and what they're doing to your child's stress response system can change everything about how your evenings unfold. The first habit is overstimulation before bed. Many parents engage their children in active play, allow screen time, or permit high energy activities in the hour or two before sleep. This feels natural. Your child has energy. You want them tired. Physical activity seems like it would help them sleep better, or you use screens to help them wind down while you prepare for bedtime. But neuroscience shows that these activities have the opposite effect on the developing nervous system. Physical play, especially rough or exciting play, activates the sympathetic nervous system and triggers cortisol and adrenaline release. Screens emit blue light that suppresses melatonin production, and the stimulating content keeps the brain in an activated state. High energy activities signal to the body that it's time for action, not rest. Research in pediatric sleep science finds that children who engage in stimulating activities within 2 hours of bedtime show elevated cortisol levels, take longer to fall asleep, experience more fragmented sleep, and wake feeling less rested than children whose evenings are calm and low stimulation. The body needs time to shift from the alert, active state into the relaxed state that allows for quality sleep, and overstimulation prevents this essential transition. The second habit is an inconsistent bedtime routine. Many well meaning parents have irregular bedtimes that shift based on the day's activities, weekend versus weekday schedules, or simply when everyone happens to be ready for sleep. The routine itself, if there is one, might vary significantly from night to night in terms of activities, duration, or sequence. This inconsistency creates stress at a biological level. The human body, especially the developing child's body, relies on predictable patterns to regulate its circadian rhythm and prepare for sleep. When bedtime is unpredictable, when the routine changes nightly, or when there's no clear pattern the body can anticipate, the nervous system remains in a state of mild vigilance rather than relaxing into the safety of a known sequence. Developmental psychology finds that children thrive on predictability. Their nervous systems interpret consistent patterns as safety signals. When bedtime lacks this predictability, cortisol levels remain elevated because the body doesn't know when to begin its natural wind down process. The child's system is essentially waiting to see what happens rather than smoothly transitioning into sleep mode. Studies show that children with consistent bedtime routines fall asleep faster, sleep more deeply, wake less frequently, and show lower baseline stress levels than children whose bedtimes are irregular. The predictability itself has a calming effect on the nervous system that allows cortisol to drop and melatonin to rise as bedtime approaches. The third habit is engaging in stress-inducing conversations or addressing anxious topics during the bedtime routine. Parents often use bedtime as a chance to talk through the day, address behavioral issues, discuss worries, or have important conversations. This feels like quality time and connection, but research shows that discussing stressful topics, processing difficult emotions, or addressing problems right before sleep activates the child's stress response system at precisely the wrong time. Even if the conversation itself is gentle and supportive, if the content is emotionally activating or mentally stimulating, it raises cortisol and makes it difficult for the brain to shift into the quiet state needed for sleep. The developing brain cannot easily compartmentalize. When we introduce worries, challenges, or emotionally complex topics during the bedtime routine, those thoughts continue circulating as the child tries to fall asleep. Their mind stays active, their body stays alert. The cortisol elevation that began during the conversation persists, preventing the deep relaxation required for sleep onset. Here's what you need to understand about cortisol and sleep. Cortisol is the body's primary stress hormone. It's released in response to activation, challenge, and stimulation. During the day, cortisol follows a natural pattern, higher in the morning to promote alertness and gradually declining toward evening to allow for sleep. Quality sleep depends on cortisol being low while melatonin, the sleep hormone, rises. When we engage in habits that spike cortisol in the evening, we're working against the body's natural rhythm. The child's system is trying to prepare for rest, but our bedtime habits are sending signals that keep the stress response activated. This creates a physiological conflict that makes falling asleep difficult and sleep quality poor even when the child eventually does sleep. Children with chronically elevated evening cortisol often struggle with sleep onset, experience lighter and more fragmented sleep, wake more easily, and show signs of sleep deprivation even with adequate time in bed. The quality of their rest is compromised by the stress hormones that should have been declining but instead remained elevated due to bedtime habits. What to do instead starts with creating a calm, low-stimulation evening environment. At least 1 to 2 hours before bedtime, shift all activities to calming, quiet engagement. Reading together, gentle music, quiet play with simple materials, drawing, bath time with dim lighting. These activities signal to the nervous system that the day is ending and rest is approaching. Remove screens entirely from the bedtime routine. The stimulation and blue light exposure make it physiologically difficult for the body to produce the melatonin needed for sleep. If your child has been using screens to wind down, replace that time with one of the calming activities mentioned. The transition may take a few days, but the impact on sleep quality will be significant. Establish a completely consistent bedtime routine. Same time every night, including weekends. Same sequence of activities, same duration. The predictability becomes a powerful signal to your child's nervous system that sleep is coming. Their body can begin the wind down process because it knows what to expect. Cortisol begins dropping naturally as the familiar routine unfolds. The routine doesn't need to be long. 15 to 30 minutes is sufficient. What matters is the consistency and the calming nature of the activities. Bath, pajamas, brush teeth, read 2 books, lights out, the same every night. This predictability is profoundly calming to the developing nervous system. Keep all bedtime conversations light, positive, and soothing. This is not the time to process the day's challenges, discuss tomorrow's worries, or address behavioral issues. Save those conversations for earlier in the day. Bedtime talk should be calm, affectionate, and emotionally neutral or positive. Stories, gentle observations about pleasant things, expressions of love and safety. If your child brings up worries at bedtime, acknowledge them briefly and kindly, then reassure them that you'll talk about it tomorrow. I hear that's on your mind. We'll figure that out together in the morning. Right now it's time for your body to rest. You're not dismissing their concern, but you're protecting their sleep by not engaging with activating content when cortisol needs to be dropping. The impact of these changes on sleep quality can be dramatic. When evening cortisol levels drop naturally because the environment and routine support that biological process, children fall asleep more easily, sleep more deeply, wake less frequently, and feel more rested in the morning. Their behavior often improves during the day because they're getting the restorative sleep their developing brain and body require. Sleep quality affects everything from emotional regulation, to learning capacity, to physical health. When we create bedtime habits that support the natural decline of cortisol and rise of melatonin, we're giving our children one of the most important foundations for their overall well-being. Start tonight. Choose calming activities for the evening. Establish a consistent routine. Keep bedtime conversations soothing. Watch how your child's sleep begins to improve as their nervous system learns it's safe to truly rest. If this information helps you understand your child's sleep struggles differently, share it with other parents who might be facing the same challenges. And stay here for more science-based guidance on supporting your child's health and development in ways that work with their biology rather than against it.